Andrew, what are the Knicks resident here on the Game Theory podcast? What are you most excited about with the New York Knicks? And I assume it's not Landry Shamet.
No, it is not. Nor is it Marcus Morris, who was signed to an Exhibit 9 deal today with the Knicks. So, well, this now being my place of neutrality, I need to. I mean, you just had some Sixers thoughts up there. I need to make sure that I express my bona fides here, and so my honest, unbiased thoughts. First, I'll just say of the Sixers and what they did is that they're going to lose again because they're losers in Philadelphia, and the Knicks will, of course, be better than them because that's how I see things going. All kidding aside, my most exciting thing about the Knicks is that this is the most talent that I think they've ever had. It's just they're loaded, guys. The depth is there. The campaign was getting playoff minutes and getting buckets against the Knicks in the first round this year, and he's their 11th man at the moment. From talking to intelligent people that cover the draft like yourselves, Tyler Kolek is NBA ready now, and
Yeah.
he's not in the starting rotation and the in the rotation to start the season. So
Tyler Kolek's going to spend a lot of time in Westchester this year.
right, and it's fine because he can be. He could. They have a legitimate minor leagues, and I think. Look, we joke about Landry Shamet and Marcus Morris, and the 11th, 12th, 13th guys. But let me tell you, the 11th, 12th, 13th guys got run last season with the injuries that piled up, with Anunoby going down and Mitch Robinson going down and Julius Randle going down. And in the playoffs, when you're out of bodies, they just didn't have any dependable ones to go to. I like that there's a focus on depth and people that Tibbs could potentially trust. So look, I think they have the best top 8 potentially, if you're factoring in what the Thunder are, the best top 8 or 9 in the NBA. It's a conversation. And you tell me, I took the over on 53.5. Am I being too much of a homer? Am I being too delusional as a Knicks fan?
No.
Okay.
I think 53.5 is probably about right. But look, the over under podcast is coming potentially this week. So I don't want to share too much, but the Knicks will be quite highly thought of on that show, at least by me. Look, they have 2 of the 4 best wing defenders, 2 of the 5 best wing defenders in the league. You know, if you could throw OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges in a conversation with Herb Jones, with Jaden McDaniels, with, any number of different players. I'm sorry if I didn't name your favorite team's player, but having both of those guys now to take on tough assignments night in, night out, both of them are flexible in who they can play against. OG, I think, is better sizing up against bigger, wings and even forward center types. Mikal's better sizing down and dealing with guards and perimeter players and being able to bother those guys, right? So that's a huge factor for the Knicks moving forward. I'm excited to see, I mean this genuinely, and I think Knicks fans are still trying to figure out what this is going to look like. I'm so excited to see what they do with Julius Randle. I don't know what that looks like in all. Do they start just Dante and Jalen Brunson and then have Mikal and OG and Anunoby and then start Julius Randle? Or do they start Mitchell Robinson with, 2 of those wings and OG and Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson, and then they start Randle with the true big? That's kind of my guess, right? You go Robinson, Randle, the 2 wings in Anunoby and Bridges and Brunson. That feels like the most likely starting 5 to me, as long as Mitchell Robinson is healthy. But then they have Dante and they have Josh Hart. These 2 guys are freaking awesome, and Deuce McBride has been really valuable for them. Figuring out what their lineups look like on any given night is really interesting to me. And we opened this podcast talking about Oklahoma City, right, and having different answers for different problems that teams are going to present to you. Honestly, I kind of think the Knicks might be the team outside of Boston in the Eastern Conference that has the most answers to the tests that will be provided to them. Is that crazy?
Not at all. And the big question I think amongst Knicks fans right now, with 4 years of Tom Thibodeau under our belt, is the emphasis on rim protection has always been a reason why he never went small. And it's why Obi Toppin never saw minutes at the 5 or next to Randall at the 5. And we would see Jericho Sims getting starting minutes if there was an injury to Mitch or Hartenstein was the starter and you needed a backup rather than pivot to smaller lineups. Then last year, when they had some depth issues, we saw him starting 3 guards. And if Josh Hart is considered a forward now, then great,
Yeah.
he's technically your power forward. But like, they were starting lineups with Hartenstein and Josh Hart and DiVincenzo and Deuce McBride next to Brunson, which is unbelievably small.
Oh,
And it
there
was,
were moments where OG was like playing the 5.
yeah. So that's the thing I think a lot of Knicks fans are hoping is that, yes, it's Randall at the 5 would technically be what people look at. But if OG's guarding your other team's center, and you could just switch everything. And then Randall turns into your Hartenstein hub that you run the offense through him, but now with 4 shooters everywhere. Or if you need a little more rebounding, you put Josh Hart in. Or as you mentioned about Deuce McBride, I mean, the guy turned himself into a bona fide lethal shooter throughout the regular season and
Yeah.
the playoffs. They just have so many options to your point. And I think a lot of Knicks fans, if you're asking for excitement, are will they go small? Can they go small? And how often will we see it?
Bryce, what are you excited about with the Knicks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see the center position and how it plays out. I make jokes about this a little bit. I honestly think I would have picked or would pick the Knicks to win the regular season if it wasn't for the center position. It makes me nervous with Mitch Robb, and I just don't think I trust yet that Julius is going to get minutes at the 5 or OG is in the scenario, whatever that combination is. But I thought maybe there's a chance that they just, because we know Tom Thibodeau is going to go try to win every regular season game. I thought maybe the Celtics would get off to a slow start with those 3 guys playing in the Olympics and KP not playing until after the first of the year. And so I was like, man, maybe this would be my hot take as the Knicks win the regular season. I just can't get there with the center spot. But I mean, if Brunson replicates and then you have those 2 wings, if Mitch Robb is healthy, it answers a lot of this stuff, right? It's just like, how much can you trust that, Andrew?
Well, can I give you a bit of a hot take? You just said something that I want to piggyback. You said if Brunson replicates. What if I told you I hope he doesn't? I hope he doesn't have to carry the team for
Okay.
4 months because they're so injury riddled. And look, what he did for the last 3.5 months of the season was extraordinary. And for as many jokes as you want to make about like the captain, Jalen Brunson, the first captain since Lance Thomas in New York, um, I he's won our hearts between taking the extension that he did and then the changing of the guard and the vibes that have now come with him and the Villanova triumph, well, whatever you want, quartet that now exists in New York. I looked into going and get my master's at Villanova this summer, which that's how ingrained into like that culture they have created here. We all are. I would love for this to be like Randall averages 7 assists and they destroy teams every night because they have an answer for everything. Like you said, I hear you about the center depth position, especially with Mitchell Robinson. And it's why I'll just add, and you guys can take it from here. They do have a trade in them. I don't know what the trade is, but it's for a backup center if they need to, or a starting center
Totally.
if they need to. Like the Zubac extension actually took him out of the running, which is why I was like, that was when I was paying attention to. But if they want to go,
I don't think they'll go that big. Like I don't think they'll go that expensive, I guess, at the center position. Do you?
but if Mitch is hurt, is what I'm saying. Like that's the type of backup center I'm talking about. I actually think Precious Achiuwa can be like a backup center that plays 25 minutes when they need him because they're playing Embiid or Jokic or Giannis or one of the bigger players in the league. Or if you need to go small and switch everything, you go to that depth lineup that I just mentioned. If Mitch goes down, then they'll need the name that keeps being brought up is Walker Kessler, which I have no idea what Danny Ainge wants. Rumor has it for a backup center that that played at Summer League and that he's not really high on. He wants the Knicks first round picks for that they have left. He wants the Statue of Liberty. He wants a name, like a whole street named after him like in next to Broadway, and who knows if that price ever
Yeah.
comes down.
Like, do
So,
we really think Danny Ainge is going to like give the Knicks like a young center? Like,
not
I
give,
don't
but
know.
if
That
the Knicks
feels
come correct with, so let me ask you: is Deuce McBride like a backup at this point? Deuce McBride, who's on a very cheap contract, a protected pick, even, is that good for a center that they're are currently not high
I
on?
would, if I was Utah, I would do Deuce in a first. I wouldn't do that if I was the Knicks. I think Deuce is really good.
But
Um,
if they're desperate, but Deuce is their eighth man right now. Like, that's the thing. You have so
yeah,
much
and you know
depth
what?
if they're desperate
You've
for a
you've
center.
you have Kolek too. I mean, here's the one. Like, could you do Kolek in a first? And like, I guess that look, my guess is that Utah probably isn't as interested in that, if only because Utah had two different chances to take Tyler Kolek in the 2024 NBA draft at 29 and 32 and didn't do it. Right.
Right.
But yeah, honestly, the Deuce one's interesting.
And
That's not that's like actually a pretty reasonable, fair offer. The more I think about it,
Claudio, what would it take? What would you trade for Isaiah Stewart?
Ooh, what's his so here's the part that I have to,
He's
what's his
he
contract?
he flat 15 for like another for 3 years, I believe.
with a team option, I believe, on the last year, right?
So they'd need to have more money going out, I believe, right? In order to avoid being hard capped at the first
Yeah, so
apron.
it's 3 plus 1 club option on the fourth.
Yeah, you could do Precious and Deuce, I think, at a certain point in the year. Like after Precious is tradable, you could do that
After,
to
if
make the
it's
money
after
work, I
Precious is
believe.
tradable, if that's what it takes,
And get and send the Pistons pick back to them.
oh, so they have control of, well,
Yeah,
not that
so
we're counting on that pick ever converting, but yes, I guess if you,
so no,
I would hesitate on Deuce, but I understand the concept of it being like that. He's the prize in the trade.
I just know that like Stu is a guy for Pistons fans. It's like, okay, Jalen Duren, and then they brought in Paul Reed. So what does that mean for Isaiah Stewart? And then Pistons fans love trying to get that protected pick, not even because of the pick, but it just like opens up opportunities or whatever. And it's just an annoying thing to always have to keep mindful of. So that was another name. I just wonder.
He's on the list. Clint Capella is a name that's come up
Yeah.
in New York.
That's a
again,
buyout name though. That's not like they can't make the money work there.
so but that's like where we're looking. Is
Did
for
Goga
the
sign
center
early
market.
enough? Did Goga sign early enough that
he signed the day of free agency?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes,
So yeah, it would be
he
the
would be eligible. Yeah.
Yeah. The extensions are the one. So it would just be later in the year. And
Yeah.
he's low money, like 6'5".
I gotta be honest.
He's
Nine.
9.
And then
He
it
was
decreases. Okay.
He was the name I was staring at when I knew Hartenstein was going to OKC. It's like, all right, go get Goga. And you look at all the impact metrics, they love him. And then the center, the backup and the regular center market it was so inflated that the Knicks got priced out.
Just to like shift off not to shift off of it, but to like ask the question in a different way. Is there a chance we're thinking about the center position too much with them? Like they have a lot of options here already. Like they have Mitch, who, for as long as he stays healthy, is the guy, right? They have Julius Randle, who can do whatever. You have the combination of OG Anunoby and Randle together, which I think they can certainly get by with using. You have Precious Achiuwa, who can eat minutes for sure. You have Jericho Sims, who Tibbs seems to like. You have Ariel Hookporty, who I certainly like and think could be like a perfect Tibbs big. Probably not this year, but like maybe, in a year or two with development. I think where I'm at on this is I actually think we're overthinking the big problem with New York. I look at their center position and I'm like, and look, like for now, right? For as long as Mitch is healthy, these are future problems to solve. These are not a problem. This is not a problem you have to solve right now. This is something that you can look at if disaster was to happen and Mitch is out for a month, which honestly, like you might be able to count on. But it sucks. Like I want Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy, but this is what he does miss time. He misses 4 to 6 weeks, it seems like, every year. I wonder if we're focusing too much on that at the expense of like, holy shit, Dante DiVincenzo right now is like 16-1 to win sixth man of the year and was fucking unbelievable last year as a starter. And Josh Hart is their seventh man and is unbelievable. And like, like you said, Deuce is amazing. And they have the ability to solve every problem that teams present in front of them. Outside of maybe they could use like a secondary offensive creator that isn't just like putting the ball in his left hand and like putting his shoulder down and driving to the rim, because that's both what Jalen does and Julius does, right? Like you might want a little bit of versatility that way, but they have so many fucking problems that they can solve, man. Like
it's a compliment. I was just gonna say it's a compliment to the Knicks, though. Like I think it speaks to the tier and the echelon that we have them in, and how good we think they can be. So,
what was my answer to your question about how excited I am, Bryce?
Extremely.
It's the extreme depth that they have. I'm extremely excited for the fact that like Josh Hart, the playoff hero that was like I could count like how many minutes he missed in the playoffs on my two hands. Like he was a playoff hero, as I said, and he is now your seventh man. And Dante broke the Knicks single season 3-point shooting record, and he's now coming off the bench. I think the only thought I have with the center position is it's a Thibodeau thing. He has put an emphasis on the center position. He showed a lot of flexibility last year. I don't want to say growth. I think it's just he schemes based off his personnel, but his personnel became very limited, and then he pivoted to places I never thought he'd pivot because he never has in the past. So I'm hoping his personnel dictates that he goes small and he tests out Anunoby at the 5 or Randall at the 5 with more shooting on the floor. So I'm excited to see it. I think this is a chance to be one of the more exciting Knicks seasons that has ever existed.
Andrew, including the playoffs, who do you think played more minutes last season? Precious Achiuwa or OG Anunoby?
Oh, Precious Achiuwa.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a little bit closer when you include playoffs. It was like within like 150 minutes. But Precious played more minutes than Anunoby last year because Anunoby got hurt.
And Precious was playing like 40 minutes a game. They started Precious
that was a little bit wild.
Like 3 months. Believe me, we got it up close. We do at Knicks Film School, we do a KFS at MSG night where we take a bunch of our patrons from Patreon to a game and like watch a game in a suite. I don't know if you guys remember the Sunday night ABC game last year between the Knicks and Sixers where Embiid didn't play, Maxey didn't play, and the final score was 79-73. And it was like the worst display of offense I saw all year. And it was the beginning of Nick Nurse just saying, like, I'm just going to put everybody in the paint. And you have Josh Hart over there and Hartenstein over there and Precious over there. If they want to hit threes, fine. And that was the last time we saw Tibbs start Precious Achiuwa at the 5. He was like trying to win the offensive rebound battle every night. And he did. The offensive rebound percentage was insane. But that's the moment he was like, oh, I scored 73 points tonight. Like, I'm going to need to generate more offense. And then we got the Deuce starting lineup, which was great.
The Knicks last season had 1,900 minutes of Taj Gibson, Precious Achiuwa, Jericho Sims.
The Taj Gibson and were hilarious. Yeah.
And won 50 games doing that. They are better this year.
Can I add one more thing to piggyback onto that? Because what you didn't count in there were the Pistons minutes. No disrespect, Bryce, but they did make a trade with the Pistons, and Bogey and Alec Burks were borderline unplayable, but you had to play them. And every night it was a battle of like, can we survive the Pistons minutes? Now
inconsequential trade ever, because then the Pistons just traded Quentin Grimes for Tim Hardaway Jr. That was like the most exciting trade at the deadline, and it did not matter for either team.
You got a 50 burger from Malachi Flynn out of that trade. I don't want to hear about inconsequential.
Malachi Flynn's my guy, man. Don't sleep on Malachi Flynn. He's down there with the Spurs. I was going to try to sneak him in earlier when we were talking about the Spurs too.
Once a Knick, always a Knick. All the Pistons minutes are now Mikal Bridges minutes, which also has me excited.
Upgrade. Yeah. That's a little
okay. So the Knicks are at 53.5 wins. You said,
yeah,
and you said over.
I took the over. I think this is.
Bryce?
I think that there's a glut in the top of the East, but I think that anywhere from 54 to 57 is the number.
Over.
Yeah. I also agree over. And I think it's closer to the 57 in the regular season, to be honest with you. Like, look, I'm fascinated to see how Boston just like handles its minutes with its stars this season. Like, I think there's a chance that, they try and get some rest here and there, and maybe they're not as serious about the regular season as what they have to be. But I'll tell you this, man, like, if I am Boston, I want home court advantage over the Knicks. I do not want to have to go to MSG with the way that this fan base is engaged right now and have to deal with that in a playoff series. I truly just don't. I think look, maybe the 1 seed, maybe the 2 seed, who knows? Like, I think it's going to be close with Boston because Boston's a better team than New York. Like, I absolutely think that, but I just wonder how seriously Boston handles the regular season. I think those are the 2 teams in the East, and then Milwaukee, Philly, and then, probably Orlando, Cleveland, I would say, or Orlando, Cleveland, Indiana, I think would be the next 3 for me. Yeah, absolutely. Indiana deserves to be included there, and Indiana, I think, could easily finish in the top 3 if things like really went nuts.